Hi, this is Rodrigo from Prime Freak Studio, and this is the Creative Hostess Show. Today, our guest is Monica Bruenjes. She specializes in animation, children's book, comics, and illustration. And she has created many projects. Her latest one is Penguin and Peep. So she is here to talk to us about her experience doing art and comics and books and all that. So, welcome, Monica.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, for the people who don't know about you, can you tell us a little bit about your history? How did you get started into art?
Oh, sure. It's kind of a long story, so I'll try to keep it brief. But I went to school first for a general art degree and got a bachelor's in art, and then I went to get a master's degree in 3D animation from the Academy of Art University. And I graduated from there about 5 years ago. And when I graduated, I just wanted to get work doing whatever I could, but I had moved from living in California to living in Wisconsin to be close to family. So I wasn't near any big studios or anything, and I started freelancing through personal contacts, people I would meet at conferences, and people I would meet over the internet. And so that's how I got into doing a lot of children's book illustrations, and illustrated some card games, and I even have illustrations in a novel, some very random projects. So yeah, I just kind of started out by just taking whatever I could get from people who liked my art. And even though I studied 3D animation, I really took a different direction, doing more illustrations. Yeah, and then through all that, I realized more and more that what I really wanted to be doing was creating. So that's where my book that Rodrigo just mentioned comes in. The Penguin and Peep comic is me deciding that I want to switch more going in that direction rather than freelancing. So.
And I see that you went to study in Japan for a little bit, which I guess that's where you got your inspiration on your company Subarashi.
Yeah. So when I was studying for my bachelor's degree, I actually double majored in art and Japanese because I was fascinated by Japanese anime and the culture. And I got to go through a student exchange program, study in Japan for a year at the Osaka Art University. And I studied animation there, actually, but I really didn't. At that time, I really didn't know what I was getting into, and they had me working on my own short film, and I did a story that was way too long. I did like a 3-minute story, which I was trying to animate in a year while studying abroad. So here I am, I'm trying to be like a tourist and sightsee and make friends and all the things that go along with life in another country, and then I've like signed myself up for a 3-minute animated film. So. Needless to say, it's not the best animation, but it was a great learning experience.
I can imagine it must have been really hard trying to balance all that.
Yeah.
What was it that, since you started 3D, do you still love 3D, or do you prefer right now like 2D illustration over 3D? And if so, why is that?
Oh, that's a tough question. You know what? I've always just loved animation in all its forms, whether it's 3D, 2D, stop motion. So that was something that was always really just hard for me to pick, pick a favorite. But I always had a knack for drawing. And the weird thing is, so I really wanted to learn 3D animation because I didn't want to be held back by what I didn't know as far as media to work with. I wanted, if I couldn't do something in a drawing, I wanted to be able to know how to do it in 3D. And so that's why I went to school for that. But I wasn't the best 3D animator either. Actually, like, even though I went to school for that, I would still sometimes do 2D animations on the side, and I would get more compliments for my 2D animations. So I think I maybe just had a little bit more natural knack for the hand-drawn stuff over 3D. But knowing 3D has really helped me a lot because sometimes there are things that I just don't know how to draw. I'm not very good with perspective and spatial awareness. So then, knowing the 3D software, I can go in there and I can set up some models and, you know, take a screenshot, print that out, trace it. And that's really, I've done that for a couple of kids' books that I had to do. I had to do one that has, it was about a pilot. So I had to draw planes, and I'm not good at drawing anything that's really rigid. I'm good at organic shapes. So that was great. I found a model online for an airplane, and I was able to rotate it and print that out, trace that, and cheat a little bit. But I can't say that I love one more than another. You know, I still watch everything that's, you know, 3D animated, 2D animated, everything animated.
That is awesome, because I know through the interviews I've seen people who are like definitely more into 2D, and they don't like to do 3D art or whatever, and obviously the opposite. And I even know some animators who were working in the time where it was all traditional hand-drawn animation, and obviously the 3D industry came, that was left out, and they hate 3D because of what happened there.
Yeah.
But it's nice to find somebody who is more balanced into just loving the art in general.
Yeah, I really do. Yeah.
And can you show us a little bit more about, since this is like a one way, like once I'm here, like it doesn't show the other camera. Can you show us a little bit the art on your book of Penguin and Peep?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'll try to hold the book up. Yeah. So this book was actually, I created these characters, and I wanted to do them as an animated TV series. So I created a pitch for them, and I went to conferences and pitched the idea. And I got a pretty good response, but no buyers. So I wanted to take their stories and get them out into the world. So I thought the best way to do that, or best, maybe also kind of quickest way to do that, would be to do a comic book. Because, I mean, I still want to animate with these guys really badly, but, you know, animation takes so long. So I thought this would be the best way to get them out there. So what I did is I took little, I called it Penguin and Peep Little Moments, and I just did like a page as one little short story. And the first page is just their background of how they meet. Penguin lives in the zoo, and he was alone and sad until he met Peep, and she brightens up his world and makes everything happy. So so they're very much like little storyboards, really. So in this one here, Penguin is kind of a bit more of a type A character. He likes his ducks in a row, and so he's playing with his food, and he's laying out his fish perfectly lined up. And Peep thinks it's fun to go and put one out of place, and he kind of freaks out about it. So yeah, they're just little story character moments. And I had a lot of fun doing this. And I think now that it's finished, I think it would be fun. I might take, you know, one of the stories and animate it from here. I'm deciding what to do next, but yeah, it's got to be something animated.
And where did it come, the inspiration to do this? Like, how did you get this idea in your head to put it into an history?
Yeah, so like the characters for Penguin and Peep, it's an idea that kind of grew over time. Back when I was in college, I lived in San Diego, except for, you know, the year I was abroad. And I had a part-time job doing caricatures at the San Diego Zoo. So I would draw lots of animals. I've always loved animals. And I think just I doodled a penguin one time, and then I doodled a little bird, and, you know, it's like, oh, they just look right together, you know. So it's like, I got to do something with them, and then you start thinking about what's their personality, and I go from there. As far as, you know, I think it's really hard to explain sometimes where ideas come from, because they're just all around, and it's just like you just kind of gather little bits and pieces, like something somebody says, or something that you know about a family member, of their personality. And then I start thinking like, oh, well, so what if the characters are doing this? What will happen, you know? And that's kind of how I write the ideas in my head for them. Just it's no one specific place.
And I see that this is not your first history. Like I'm looking here at your website right now and see Moosebear,
Yeah.
Sweetness on the Sea, Forever,
Yeah.
the Forever Girls.
Yeah.
How do you do to try to create, like, because this is an issue that most people have. Like, I know really amazing artists who can create amazing illustrations, but they have absolutely no muscle inside their mind to create histories, like new stories over and over and over and over. And talking to like the biggest producers of cartoons, like that's one of the things that they are trying to look in the artist. Like, is this a person who can create like many histories over the course? Like, for example, Fred has this idea of, oh, is this a person who can create like 100 histories through the lapse of 5 years? Because at the end, you know that there are many histories, not all of them come together, but that's why it's so important to have this skill to create new story, keep trying, and pretty much trying to do it as fast as possible. Is this something that comes natural to you, or was this something that you learned through all these years?
I would say maybe a bit of both. I always did well in English classes. I always liked telling stories. But learning to tell, stories visually is very difficult. And after I graduated, I kind of continued my education. I got some help, some training in how to pitch my ideas, and through a couple, Jeannie and Mark Simon, they have a company called Sell Your TV Concept Now, and they're great to work with though, because they'll help you know what to say in a pitch and know what to have for a pitch. So they helped me kind of a little bit with that aspect. And I also was just watching and reading, like watching a lot of podcasts and reading a lot of books that I could find on storytelling. I was a part for a while of the Oatley Academy online. They had a group called the Storytellers Summit. It's still going on. So you can like subscribe to that. So I did that, and they were really good at explaining simply like the process of that goes into storytelling. And yeah, and there's some good books by Brian McDonald that are worth checking out. If you want to get better at storytelling, I'd recommend those too. So yeah, so I studied a lot to try to get better at it, and I practiced too. I think that's the other part of it, is just I think that's also like where this book came from. Also, was me practicing like writing short stories and writing a lot of them. Like how many little stories can I do with these characters? And I scrapped a lot of stories too. Not all the ones I came up with went in that book. Hopefully the better ones went in the book.
Definitely. You just touched a very important topic, because I know many creators, like, this is a part that almost nobody talks about, which is the histories or the videos or the animations that never get made.
Oh, yeah.
And it's incredible that when you start trying to investigate into this area of the world that nobody's talking about, because at the end it's like, oh yeah, like if you get something in the media or if you get published something, that is like one of your very best things. But there is also many things that they did that failed and nobody saw them, and there are even many more things that they did. They put a lot of time into creating, and then after a long time of creating, they just go like, you know what, this is not like the quality that I like to strive for, so I'm not going to publish this. And now you have this project that has taken sometimes weeks or months into doing, and never showing it to the world because you decide, no, yeah, this is not that good.
Mm.
So how do you go about deciding to scrap something that you have put a lot of work into it?
Oh, that's a toughie. Well, sometimes I've shown the bad work anyway, which is not the best idea. Like when I did my, you know, the projects I did for school, I still put those up on YouTube. And now I feel like hiding them again. But,
I know the feeling.
yeah, so I think it's something that I guess let me put it this way. I think it's something you figure out with experience. Because when you're young and starting out, you don't always know what's your best work. You know, you don't have like the trained artistic eye for certain things, you know. It's just you just are so happy to finish it and you just want to show the world, like, look what I done, like, look what I did, yay me, you know. But yeah, I think my advice would be that if someone isn't sure whether it's something to show or not, it would be to put it aside for a little while and just wait and not show it right away. And give it some time and then go back to it and look at it again with fresh eyes. Maybe, you know, ask a few trusted friends, colleagues, what they think of it. But it's difficult, I think. And I think you also have to practice letting go a lot. Like just not holding your work to be so precious and not holding on, you know, like you can train yourself to let go by like doing a drawing and ripping it up and throwing it away, and doing another drawing, ripping it up and throwing it away. Like just, I think it's just a mindset that you get into, you know, that you don't want, after a while, you don't want to show it unless it's really good. And you just learn to deal with that disappointment and be okay with letting it go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, let me see. Oh, I just forgot the question that I was going to do. Oh man, I hate that when that happens.
Yeah, I know, and I was kind of rambling, so sorry about that.
Don't worry. What I was going. I remember. You told us right now that you show it to your friends in order to get like a feedback.
Mm-hmm.
But in some cases, when you show it to your people, your friends, to ask for advice, they usually go like the kind way, like, yeah, it's great, even though they don't think that. Do you have like a set of friends who are like really honest, that you can contact in order to give you the true feedback?
Yeah, there's a, you know, that's, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a difficult thing. That's another mistake I made a lot, was just, you know, showing it to the wrong people. Because you have to, when you show it to someone else, you have to kind of think about how they're going to, where they're coming from too, what their background and history is. And yeah, if you're showing it to your mom, she's gonna love it because she loves you. And so yeah, you have to find the right people who you know will give you an honest opinion. So yeah, there's a few people like that in my life, but they are few and far between, and it's hard to find those people. But once you do, it's a treasure. It's a treasure to be able to yeah, get an honest critique from someone that you trust.
And how do you go about
trial and error, showing it to lots of different people, and being able to deal with it when they don't like it or when they don't give good advice. I would say when you show your work to other people, a really difficult thing is filtering the feedback that you get. And I was not good at this in the beginning, and I was kind of swayed this way and that. Like when I was working on my project in college, you know, I'd get advisors and they'd think my story was about one thing and they'd try to get me to make it like that. And it wasn't quite what I was going for, but I couldn't articulate it yet. So so it would kind of get off track. And so you really do have to be careful with the feedback. You have to know in your own mind first, what are you trying to say? And then look for people who, you know, if you're having difficulty in a certain aspect, look for people who are good at that and then ask them for advice, you know. So I'm trying to think of an example, but like you just don't want to, you know, if somebody's good at storyboarding, you don't want to ask them for advice on like, I don't know, like your colors or something, you know, like just find somebody who's good in that area, on that aspect of the project that you're having trouble with, I would say, to be able to get better advice. And ask specific questions too can help, like with your friends or something, or colleagues, you know, what do you think about this particular aspect of my story? Because otherwise they're just going to critique something that you didn't even want them to. They're going to say, well, I don't like the cover, it's blue, you should make it yellow. And I'm like, I'm not asking that, you know. Like, what do you think of this panel right here? I don't know. It's maybe not a good example, but
Also on the side of community, pretty much, how do you do in order to grow this kind of backbone to take like the hard criticism that because I know people who like ask for feedback and then you give an honest feedback, like not trying to be rude, not trying to be hurtful, like just in order for them to improve as an artist, and they get offended because you tell them like, yeah, this is not that good and you can improve this thing, and they get mad. And how do you go about pretty much making that change into being stronger to take that feedback?
that's a good question. I think for me, I would say it's two things that go into it, and I would say it's attitude and it's practice. So attitude is like being humble enough to admit that you're not the best, that you're not as good as you might think you are or hope you are. So, you know, and I think you need that to have that kind of attitude to learn anything, is to admit that, you know, there's more you can learn. And then I think practice, and what really helped me practice was the caricature job, because oh my goodness, I mean, sometimes people are great and they're fun and they're happy for what you draw, but you know, you're drawing their face, you're drawing a goofy version of their face. That's a really personal thing. People get really offended sometimes. And it really, that was the practice for me that grew my thick skin, is just, you know, yeah, you spend, you know, 15 minutes on a drawing and you're hoping that they'll pay for it. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they don't, and on top of it, they give you, you know, an earful, which is not fun, but definitely helps for developing a thick skin.
I definitely have seen that. My partner does like cartoons of people and pretty much tries to do that. And I accompanied him like last time he did that, and sit next to him like talking, and then comes a girl like, oh, do this cartoon, and gives a photo, and he does like this cartoon version of them, and I saw it like it was identical, but somehow like, and this is the funny thing, like she gave him like a picture of a party, so they were in the night and pretty much with a lot of makeup and all this thing. And she comes and she doesn't like it, and I see like her face, and I see like the drawing is like, you're identical to this thing. And pretty much she obviously had another image of how her face looked like, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, sorry to break it to you, but you're not that pretty. And how do you deal with that when they get that angry?
It's hard because I am a pretty sensitive person, but so yeah, I just try to learn to not take it personally. But sometimes it was difficult still. And obviously I'm not doing that job anymore, so I don't think I could have. It's one of those, like, it was one of those jobs that was really good, a really good learning experience, but not something I wanted to continue because it was kind of an emotional roller coaster. Oh, yay, I sold a drawing. Oh no. And it was yeah, it was usually, a lot of times too, like, moms are very, they want to do it because it's fun and it's cute, but then they tell you, could you please not make his ears look so big? And the kid's got ears that are like out to here, and you're like, but if I don't, it's not gonna look like him.
Yes, I've seen that. Also, this is something that has happened so much that is actually a statistic that we have now, like, because we pretty much measure everything. And every time that somebody comes along that wants a cartoon and asks for a discount because they think like the price is too high, they always get mad because of pretty much they don't like the cartoon, they don't like how they see each other. Like, almost 95% of the time that they ask for a discount, this problem happens as well.
Oh, it's tough, right?
Yeah. Also, when you see people starting this type of careers, like into illustration, trying to learn animation, what are the most common mistakes that you see people doing that they are not aware that they are doing?
Ooh, I think that most common mistakes. I would say maybe just not having a good understanding of, like, the fundamental principles of design, maybe composition. Yeah, I teach some classes online part-time, and I think that's a lot of what my students don't know is, they tend to get into the details sometimes too quickly, when really they just need to work on the structure of a drawing first, get good proportions and good perspective, and yeah. So I would say that studying the principles of design is very good. Those basic things, the boring things like doing color wheels and yeah, and drawing points to a horizon line and vanishing point.
You just remember some traumas.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can always return to those basics.
Also, this is a tricky question, but what is something that you didn't expect at all when you started this career that became true and is really important?
Oh, okay. Expecting. Well, to be honest, I guess for myself, I didn't realize, I didn't expect to really want to be a creator as badly as I do. When I started studying, going to school and whatever, I just wanted to work as an artist, some kind of artist, and I loved animation, I loved comics. I was thinking in my head I would go work for a big company, a big studio, and that didn't happen. And so I guess I was surprised that I was okay with that. and that yeah, and that I realized what mattered to me was creating my own stories more than anything. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do now.
On the other hand, what is something that you completely expected that became true and is really important?
Well, I expected to be able to earn some money making art. That's very important.
Definitely.
I still don't make a whole lot, but I've sold some art. And that feels very good. It's very validating.
Yeah, in our case and in many cases as well, like at least we grew up in an environment where everybody was telling us like if you go into art, you are not going to eat.
Yeah.
And now that we are making way more money doing this, another thing, it feels really amazing.
Yeah, I still remember my high school art teacher. She said that you can't make a living as an artist. You know, you got to have some kind of side job. You got to have, you know, and this is true sometimes, but it's certainly not true all the time. And there are a lot of artists making good money. So it can happen. You just have to be, I think, you know, just have to persevere.
Definitely. Also, how has the internet impacted the way you do the work?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to do what I do now without it, honestly, because when I started going to college, you know, like working online wasn't a thing, hardly. And now, you know, I've met clients through the internet. I can get, you know, exposure for my artwork on the internet. I teach online classes. Like I wouldn't be able to do that. So yeah, I think it's really enabled me. So I live in Wisconsin right now. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere on a farm, and yeah, I wouldn't be able to live here without the internet and make a living as an artist. You know, I would be doing something else. I would be out there playing with the cows or something. I don't know, but so I'm very thankful that the internet exists.
Actually, I just saw in a couple of groups, there was this guy like a hipster talking, oh, how would you do the art without technology and glorifying the times where there wasn't the internet, computers, and all these things. And I was like, dude, if it wasn't for the internet, like I would be.
Yeah.
and yeah, like once I said, like a lot of people started saying, like, yeah, it will be way harder.
Yeah.
So on this topic, what are the resources that you recommend in order to start either learning to become a better artist online or to get opportunities?
Okay. Well, learning to be a better artist, I definitely recommend like Oatley Academy and Schoolism. There's lots of free resources too. You know, I love listening to the Bancroft Brothers animation podcast and a lot of other podcasts. So I would say, you know, look up what resources are there online. Pick an artist you like. You know, follow them. Oh, Steven Silver's another good one. He does like art talks on YouTube. Your podcast, Rodrigo, duh, right? And so, yeah, so I would say pick an artist you like and, you know, see if they're interviewed anywhere or anything, and you can follow them. And then, what was the other part? Question was,
to get opportunities.
Oh, opportunities, yeah. Opportunities can also come from, you know, some of those online schools. Facebook, social media can be good. There's a couple of Facebook groups I'm a part of, and I've also I've kind of made opportunities for myself through my blog. That I had a blog for a while, and also just by going to like physically traveling a little bit to conferences. That's another way I've made them. And local like little comic book shows too. Those can be a good way to make opportunities for yourself. So I've gotten some good jobs just because I went to a little bitty comic book convention and had a table there, you know, selling my art prints, and somebody you know, liked them and then hired me to do work. So I think there's lots of different ways, both in person and online today. So.
And what would be exercise that you would recommend to become a better artist over time?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Exercises that you will do like every day to become a better artist over time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love life drawing and sketching animals and people, so I do that whenever I can, and just keep drawing. I guess for me, I am kind of, I like variety a lot. And so what I kind of tell myself in my head is to do something creative every day, whether it's writing or drawing, because I'm not very like religious about I draw every single day or I write every single day, but I will do something, try to do something creative every single day. That's just my personal way of doing it. So I would just, I think it's just, yeah, keep practicing is the most important part. Just keep doing.
Also, this is a very hard question, but I like to ask it anyway because sometimes it gives me interesting answers. But let's say you wake up tomorrow and you're in a different universe. Nobody knows about you. Pretty much you have zero reputation, but you have all your tools, all your skills, all your knowledge. And you have $500 in your pocket. What will you do to get as soon as possible into this point that you are professionally speaking?
In that new world?
Yes.
What would I do? That's a hard question. I guess I would start making something and show it to them.
Pretty to the point.
Yeah. I don't know. Pretty much what I've been doing here, just over there.
Nice. Is there an advice that you would like to give people who are starting out into the art career that we haven't talked about into this interview?
I guess I would say figure out what you like most about what, like, a particular art form or what you're doing. For me, that was very difficult, figuring out that what I liked, the aspect that I really liked, was creating. And sometimes it will surprise you. I would say try different, you know, all different things. You know, if you're interested in the world of animation, try storyboarding, try doing, you know, concept art, try animating, and don't rely just on what people tell you you're good at, you know, but think about what you like to do the most, and then focus on getting good at that.
Nice. Also, if people want to find you online, where would be the best place to do so?
artistmonica.com.
And your social media?
Everything's linked to that. On that, everything is linked from my website, so that's probably the easiest way. But yeah, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I think, yeah, I'm either on there as my full name, Monica Bruenjes, or Artist Monica, depending on the site. So I think I'm Artist Monica on Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. Also, one more question that I just forgot and I just remember. Uh, on the topic of pretty much finding out what is the thing that you really like about art,
Oh
what
yeah.
would be some tips that you will give in order to find out that? Because I know many people as well who are, again, talented artists, but they are still not sure about what it is that they want to do.
Yeah, I would say just trying lots of different things, and then either talking to in person people who do the job that you think you want to do, or listening to interviews of them to kind of learn what that job really entails. But I would say the biggest thing would just be trying lots of different things, and in the beginning being open to whatever it is, and like I said, just see what you like. Yeah.
Awesome. Um, yeah, I was going to ask something else, but I forgot.
Yeah.
Hey, when that happens. Anyways, thanks a lot for giving us a little bit of your time here and all your advice. It's really appreciated that you have taken some time to do this.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I'm really honored to be among among the guests that you've had. You've had some great people on here, so yeah, thank you for having me.
I just remembered the question that I was about to do,
Okay.
and it is, what is your goal for the future, for the next 10 years?
Yeah. Well, I want to be animating more, and I want to be creating more. So I think my goal would be to produce original animated content. Yeah.
We will be definitely looking forward to that and seeing series that you are creating in the future, maybe in Cartoon Network, in Nickelodeon, and so on.
I hope so. Fingers
Thanks.
crossed.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for being here again and giving us your time. It's really great.
Oh, yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
So it has been the last episode of the Creative Hostler Show. If you like it, click the like button below and share this interview with your friends. And if you're listening to us in iTunes, then please give us a review over there. Until next time.